Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Board Masters with me, Chris Mullins. And today we are looking at part 2 of the upcoming games that I've backed. I have done part 1 of this already. If you've missed that, then I will link to that in the comments below. So I'd recommend checking that out. But we'll jump back in and get on with looking at all the games that I spent far too much money on. So I'll get back to the video. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Right, this next one is probably my most fun campaign to date, Monsters on Board. I absolutely love this campaign, it was so much fun. It's a spooky dice drafting game with custom dice, 3D cardboard cards and colourful monster minis. I can't really put my finger on why it was so much fun. I know Final Frontier games were really engaging in the comments, and I think just the theme of the game, and it just looks a sort of a lighter game than a lot on the list. And just looks a lot of fun. The artwork's fun. I love Halloween because my 7-year-old son, it's his favourite holiday of the year. So I used to hate it before he came along, but now I can't wait to get the decorations up every year. And I think this is just feeding in on that. And basically, you're sending out your monsters around this town to scare people, to get enough spook juice to have a party at the end of the year, which is just so irreverent that can't help but make me smile. Also with these cars, they're the basic designs. I was really keen throughout the campaign to get some upgraded ones on these, because although I think they're a really cool mechanic, they did look a bit plain, and thankfully they came through on that. I mean, look at those little minis. How cute are those monsters? They are adorable. And again, lots of little bits of plastic that don't add anything to the game, but just add to the presence of the board. But let's find those new cars. Here we go. So they've still got one of the originals, but then they've redone it. So we got a mummy one, a skeleton one, a Dracula one, and I think they look great. They may be including some plastic ones as an add-on, so like proper toy cars, but they will probably cost a bit more. And to be honest, they have shown videos on this then in one of the updates of how resilient these are, so I'm more than happy with just these, but knowing me, I'll find it hard to resist the plastic ones if they do become available as well. Also, something that's really exciting for me is this kids-friendly mode that they unlock during the campaign, because I know Alex is going to love this theme, he's going to want to play it, and I would be worried that it wouldn't be accessible for him, but with a kids-friendly mode, those worries are assuaged, really. I don't need to care about that. We can play that and build him up till he can play the full game, and that is a real selling point for me. And I think they shocked themselves on how successful the campaign was when they start throwing in a car sticker as a major final stretch goal. And I've never had any interest in a car sticker in my life, but I will be putting that one up straight away because I just love everything about this game. The next one is Streets, an urban tile laying game for 1 to 5 players from the designer of Villagers. And similar to Petrichor Lizard Wizard, this is one I cancelled a pledge on and actually was prioritising at that time Return to Planet Apocalypse, which looks very similar to Massive Darkness. It's a slightly different type of game in that it's tower defence, and I was justifying it based on that. It's a different genre that I don't have, and it also has big, impressive minis. But Boardgameco did a review on it, and seeing it actually on the table, pretty much all their minis are either bright red or bright purple, and when you've got a 10, 12, 15 centimetre giant purple demon, it really put me off. I think the aesthetic was really unpleasant on the table, and I cancelled my pledge, which surprised me a little bit because I was kind of all in on it before, and although I'd seen on the campaign page the colours and they didn't really bother me then, there's only seeing it in real life on the screen during Alex's video that really put me off. And as soon as I cancelled that, I came straight back to Streets, which is a dramatically different game. I love these little meeples. I just think they look great. And I don't have anything really like this. Kind of similar to Canopy in that it's a 2-player competitive primarily. But again, I think it's different enough that it occupies its own space in my collection, in that you lay in these tiles to earn money and attract visitors to them. and then you want to close off the street, and all the meeples run off to the next store of the same colour, and you choose which store they are if you're the one who closed off the street, so you can then control and manipulate it as you see fit. These are some giant meeples we unlocked at the end of the campaign with the influencer and the super dad, and again they just look great. So yeah, they've got really good how to play on here. So you place a building, the meeples of the same colour are attracted to it, and then when the street is closed off, the buildings are sold for money, and the meeples earn money and then run off to the next building of the same colour. My only concern with this game, and why I cancelled it to begin with, is that Quackalope had a really good playthrough and the game looked really fun, but it did look like there was a fair amount of downtime even in a two-player game, so I am still a bit concerned how it will stand up to higher player counts. But even if it is a poor 3, 4, 5 player game, if it's as fun as it looked in a 2-player game, I'm happy to have it just in that space and occupy that place in my collection. Also, for £53 for Streets and their previous game Villagers, it's cheap enough that even if it is terrible, I'm not going to be losing much money. And being in the UK, I will get Villagers in the next couple of months, which is very exciting because I will be featuring that on the channel straight away. The next one is Dinosaur World, and this is a spiritual sequel to Dinosaur Island, which was one of the first games I bought this summer when board games started to really appeal to me. Because, as mentioned in Perseverance earlier, I have always been a bit of a dinosaur nerd. I absolutely love them. One of my favourite games on the PS4 over the last few years was Jurassic World Evolution. Although I wish the owners could look at this and follow their lead and bring in the water dinosaurs, because that would be epic. But this just looks like it expands on the previous games in that these tiles, hexagonal tiles, as opposed to rectangle ones, that you can combine in far more interesting ways. And whilst the last game was quite limited on what you could have in your park, this seems to have a lot more scope to play. Also has a new mechanic where you have these little jeeples that drive around and you tour the guests around to build up the excitement to earn more money. And then we have the dinosaur meeples, and this is again one of my biggest disappointments with the retail version of Dinosaur Island that I had to get. The game was great, it was really fun, but because I got the retail version, all of the dinosaur meeples were Triceratops. They weren't screen printed in this way, it was just plain pink Triceratops, so whether you were making a raptor, a brontosaurus, a T-Rex, you had to place a Triceratops, which was just a bit sad, really. We did alleviate that somewhat by raiding Alex's toy box and getting his little jar of plastic dinosaurs, and they managed to fit most of the types we were creating, so that did help. But I think the next stretch goal is an Ankylosaurus, which I'm really hoping we get because that's Alex's favourite dinosaur. But one I haven't backed on here. Oh, here's the water dinosaurs. Have a look at this Jurassic World Evolution. Make it happen. So I'm just going to scroll down because it's a sort of a two-part campaign, this one, in that it's got Dinosaur Island Roar and Write, which is a roll and write game. I haven't pledged for this because I've never played a roll and write. It doesn't look like something I would be interested in, especially as it's not, as they say here, it's not a 20-minute long throwaway game. It's a meaty roll and write. It's going to take 30 to 45 minutes. So I'm just a bit reluctant to introduce myself to the genre with something like that. If you are a big fan of the genre, please feel free to comment, tell me what I'm missing, and if not Dinosaur Island, give me some recommendations on what I can try instead, because, as I said, I want to experience as much as I can, but I'm really reluctant to try it on this. Not sure why, but it's just not quite right. But Dinosaur World itself is very exciting. The next one we have is In Too Deep, which is getting towards the end now, by Burnt Island Games, who, in my short time in this community, I've learned have a very good reputation, and I am very excited for this one. This campaign has been really fun. They've been really engaging in the comments section. I think partly because the campaign hasn't been anywhere near as successful as I think the people involved, as well as us as fans, have expected. from the things that I've heard from people I respect in the industry, people like Alex at Boardgameco, they seem to love this game, love this creator, and yet it's not doing the numbers. I mean, 87,000 when, as you saw, Massive Darkness was all right, a different type of game because it was swathes and miniatures, but that was $3-4 million. You would certainly expect this to be in the even Dinosaur World before that was, I think, closing on $600,000, and that's got a lot longer to go. But hopefully we'll have a good last 2 days and blaze through some. Again, we've got another collection of lovely minis there of different criminals and whatnot. And with this one, you're manipulating criminals in order to gather evidence to foil the syndicate's plot. One of the players will betray everyone, we just don't know who it will be yet. So they have this mechanic where you are controlling criminals and setting them up to commit crimes, which basically then gives you the evidence against the syndicate. But the person who commits the most crimes at the end has gone in too deep. They've been corrupted by the criminal world and get a large points penalty at the end. So that's a really interesting dynamic of whether do you try and manipulate it so that you believe you're in second place and close enough to first place, so when they get that penalty and hit and drop down, that you're in place to take the first place and win the game? Or do you just go for it, blaze through as many crimes as you can, knowing full well that you're going to take a points penalty at the end, but with the hope that you've built up such a point lead throughout the game that penalty isn't enough to lose you first place? So it's a really interesting sort of risk and reward sort of system there. Again, this really positive comments. I can understand to an extent why people might not back it in terms of these components, because when we get to them, I mean, those grip discs, those heat markers, contribution, they are amazingly dull. I can't believe they would ever put them on the campaign, really, because they are so boring. But they have all been upgraded as throughout the campaign. I would hope they did improve the graphic to reflect that. But we've got these, well, as part of the time reveals, those boring little 6 yellow discs have now been replaced by these drones, which look incredible, and they mark heat in a city zone. So basically, when you commit a crime in a city zone, it draws the heat, and the police are there, so then you can't commit crimes in that city again until the heat is dissipated, and these drones represent that. We also had another reveal today with a little mini expansion where this Sentinel character, before he just seemed to stand around the board, and I'm not entirely sure what his role was, but now he seems far more active. You can change his directives to change how he's behaving. So you can, again, access heat in a zone. You can stop players committing a crime in the Sentinel's presence, etc., which is an interesting way of scuppering other people, because the sound of this game, and it's quite an abstract little thing in that it sounds to me like it's kind of a reverse Cluedo, in that in Cluedo, obviously, you're trying to find out that it was Colonel Mustard in the library with the wrench. In this game, you are tasked with getting Colonel Mustard in the library with the wrench so that he can then commit the crime to give you the evidence. But everybody else is also trying to move their criminals and their items, so they might be fighting for the wrench. They might be trying to get Colonel Mustard into the library, for example. And it's just so unique. I haven't heard of anything really like that, and it looks a whole lot of fun. And one thing I will mention was a lot of these games that we're looking at now that are towards the end of the campaigns, the campaigns will be finished by the time this video goes live, but the pledge managers will almost certainly be open. With some of them, they may not even be open yet because it can take a little while for pledge managers to start. So if you are interested in some of these, have a look, because you will be able to get your hands on a lot of them through the campaigns yourself. Next, we have the Seventh Citadel. And this is probably my least exciting campaign. I'll go into why. The Seventh Continent. This is a spiritual sequel to the Seventh Continent, which is a game I haven't played, but I'm very keen to, because everything I've heard is that it's a really deep, brilliant narrative experience. Lots of character development, all about exploring. It's got this sort of choose your own mechanic, like the old. I love the old fighting fantasy books back in the day. It matches up with my old video game tastes in that it's a huge narrative adventure. So it just sounds right up my street. And the Seventh Citadel is much the same. You sort of see these tiles where you have to choose what to look at, choose where to go, and there'll be risk and reward and everything. And that really interests me. But I think because I haven't played the game, they go through the stretch goals. We've unlocked 58 additional cards with 14 stretch goals, and the updates have this sort of explanation of how the cards influence the gameplay, and I have no idea what any of it means because I just haven't played it. I don't know how it influences things, so I just struggle to get excited when I'm not entirely sure what's going on. So I'm kind of backing it at the moment because I feel like I should. I feel like it is a game that I will love once I've got it in front of me, even if that art is particularly ugly. I can get past that. But yeah, I think once I've got it in front of me, I will understand why it's so highly rated and hopefully fall in love with it. And if I don't, as Alex at Boardgameco has pointed out, this game will not lose its value, so I will be able to sell it for what I paid for it, if not more. So sort of a no-lose situation. The next one is Cascadia, which is another beautiful theme game, although I think with this one, actually, it was my wife who really got sold on this. Nearly got to another stretch goal. For me, I really want to try the previous game, Calico, and I was hoping that this campaign would have Kickstarter editions of Calico available, because again, after Dinosaur Island, I'm really reluctant to buy retail of most things now. It doesn't. They replied to my comment initially saying that there isn't Kickstarter editions available of Calico at the moment, but they may look to do another print run, which I would be very excited for, because in our house we are a cat family, and playing a game where you use tiles to these little tiles like this to knit together a quilt in order to entice cute little cat tiles to come and curl up on the quilt, and just so very cute. This one doesn't have that cuteness factor, but I do love, well, we've seen with Canopy and Endangered, I love an ecology focused game, and one that's very tactical about building the ecology, getting the right species of animal in the right environment and the right habitat with the right surroundings. Like the points are impacted by what's next to each other, and it just looks like a really fun little game. And again, at a price point of $29 plus shipping, it's a bit of a free hit. And if I do really love it, then we can take the hit and get the Calico retail if they don't get some Kickstarter editions from somewhere. But it looks lovely, it looks fun, and while it's not top of the list of my most excitable games on here, it is one I'm looking forward to. These ones now we're getting into are ones that I missed the Kickstarter. They went through before I even got into the hobby, but are available through late pledges. And this is another one that I'm blaming on Alex at Boardgameco, because he did a video on it a couple of weeks back, basically explaining why we absolutely should back it and should buy it. And I just, yeah, if he tells me to, I pretty much spend money, is how it seems to go. So it's a Polyamino game, which is another one that fills a niche in my collection that I don't have at the moment. So you get these wonderful little tiles, which are different terrains, so like water and forest and everything, that you have to place on your planets in order to get, you get points by rows, by columns, but you're basically just trying to build a sustainable planet. You get these rovers that cycle around collecting meteors and life pods that crash onto the planet and whatnot. I got the deluxe edition, of course, as I am a sucker for FOMO, so I end up with the deluxe edition of everything. So you spin this around, and whichever slot is looking at the person, they have to take a tile from that space. And it's just a really interesting dynamic. Loved the aspect of this placing tiles and fitting them in. Kind of like Tetris, and they really play on that in one of the stretch goal planets. So they had the 6 planet boards you saw at the top, they were all the same, but on the back they all have different ones. So this one is one where you can't go on the ice or the land at the same time. This one has a peaceful civilization living there already, and you will lose points if you, or score points for every city you don't cover. You don't lose points if you destroy them, but you are more than welcome to come along and drop a tile on top of any of these cities, killing all the inhabitants, as long as it gives you a better planet. We've got ones where there's a big chasm, so your rovers can't cross that, so you have to make sure you're placing them in the right place for what you want to do. And there's a few more, but I just want to go down, and yeah, they've got some asymmetric player boards as well, so again that just adds more variety and replayability to everything. And I just want to find the Tetris planet, which is at the bottom of this. Here we go, Planet 9. Inspired by Tetris, this planet requires you to build from the bottom upwards. Also, you must be able to slide your tile into place to place it. So it literally is a Polyamino tile placing Tetris game with a planet theme. And there is no way I'm not going to buy that, because that just sounds great. I've got some other planets and that I haven't really looked at yet, but again, that one, because the campaign is long over, that one should be really soon. I'm hoping beginning of next year. These next two I can't blame on Alex at Boardgameco. These two are definitely the fault of Jesse at Quackalope, because he has done unboxings on these in the last couple of weeks. And I mean, Honey Buzz, what? I'm going to say it again. I've said it so much in this video, but this game is gorgeous. And you got to love honeybees. I mean, they are vital to our lives, and you've got to look after them. And just the quality of these components, and the idea of the theme that basically the bees have discovered economics, and they have set up a stall in the forest where they're going to sell all the honey they make to the other critters of the forest. So you've got these bears and raccoons and whatnot coming to buy your honey, and you have to build your hive with little tiles, which I'm not sure they're quite polyamino, but you have to build your hive. You then send your workers out to find certain types of nectar that you have to have in, or certain types of pollen that you have to have in the right combinations to create the right nectar to make the right honey. And it just looks like a really fun little sweet puzzle with an amazing theme. And if you watch the Quackalope unboxing, you'll see just how gorgeous some of the deluxe components are. I don't know if we'll see them on here. Yeah, so like the resin ones, and then I don't think they actually had them on here. No. Oh, these squishy honey ones, sorry. They looked good enough to eat on the video, which is probably a problem in itself, because it's going to be tempting to put them in your mouth, because they looked absolutely delicious. They did look like honey sweets. And then you've got these little beeples as opposed to meeples, where they apparently feel fuzzy, like they have their little their bee fuzz, not beer fuzz. That's a completely different thing. You've got an actual honey dipper as the player marker. Got these wooden counters with the bear paw and the acorns, and they just looked stunning on the table in Jesse's video, and I could not resist. And the same goes for the next one, much to my wallet's chagrin, because this is the one that has, at the moment, taken over the crown from Massive Darkness 2 as my most expensive game, at least until the shipping bill comes in for Massive Darkness. This one, I think I got to the 6-minute mark of Jesse's video before I had to stop and basically find some way on Google of buying this and getting this now as soon as I can, because it's just a work of art. I don't know how it plays. I don't even really care, given how good it looks. I mean, they describe it as a completely different board game experience. It's a dream crawler, not a dungeon crawler. So you will dive into surreal and artistically crafted world and follow one-of-a-kind co-op solo campaign adventures for wonderful players. Everything you do will change the strange rhythm of the Etherfields dream world, where even the wildest fantasy is possible. So what I understand, basically, the cards that you have in the decks, the actions that you pick can change the rules of the game as you're playing and just mix it up completely as if you are in a dream where everything just sort of flips upside down. Everything is sort of grounded in a reality that you recognize, but it's twisted, it's warped, it's enabled them to get ultra creative with these minis and characters. I mean, look at the art on these. I mean, there's some beautiful games around, but I think some of this I'm just going to display, I think. And being an enormous Final Fantasy VII fan, having a one-winged angel as a player character is something I'm going to be trying straight away. I know she doesn't look like Sephiroth, but she's a one-winged angel. It's happening. I mean, the board is gorgeous. It's going to take me days and days and days to sleeve all these cards, same as with a few other titles. But I mean, these masks, they are stunning, and they each have like a personality trait on them, like compassion, wisdom, luck, that impacts how you play the game, because it's your personality, and your personality shapes what's going on in the game world. You've got these stunning miniatures. I don't know if one of my favourites so far is the she-wolf. Oh, well, I also love Business Penguin. I mean, it's a penguin in a top hat with a briefcase. It's just amazing. And then, yep, we've got the she-wolf, which just is so detailed. And I cannot wait to have that on my table. Got more masks, got another beautiful one. What's that? The Sphinx. Funeral Witch. They're all so unique, and you can just tell that the dream aspect has enabled them to just go to town. And a few weeks ago, I commented on a video on YouTube where they kept talking about Sundrop. I think it was in relation to Alien Nemesis. And being a complete noob, I had no idea what that meant and had to comment on there asking, what on earth is this Sundrop you keep talking about? It seems to just make everything crazy expensive. And now I know it is this. It's basically a wash or something, or a style of mini that gives it this sort of bronze effect, which just amplifies each and every detail. I mean, you can see every feather on that mini. And then we've got these stunning card holders. Again, I think if you watch Quackalope's unboxing video, I'll do one of myself when this arrives as well. But when you watch it, I think everyone in the video, when they open this box, along with me at home, all made noises that you wouldn't expect grown men to make when they open a box with a card holder in it. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And because I got in so late, it should be arriving in the next 4 to 6 weeks. I think it said October, November time. So fingers crossed I'll be able to get some good footage of that up before Christmas. And the final one isn't a board game, but it is board game related if it ever loads. And there we go. So it's the Meggan board game table. So having spent a lot of money on a lot of titles, I felt I had to have somewhere dedicated to play it. I mean, at the moment I'm filming on my wife's laptop on the kitchen table, trying to find a space in the day where I haven't got cats or a 7-year-old vying for the attention. So we are planning to convert the garage, which is something we were doing anyway, but it gives me a perfect little private space where I can have my board game table, I can have my camera set up, and should be a really good space to film, hopefully. Provided we're still going at that point. I hope we are, because I'm enjoying what we're doing so far. But the aim for me is basically that table. I'm going to get those benches. It's the 4 to 6. I don't see any need of getting anything bigger than that. May not have the exact same accessories around the side, but we'll customize it, and I'm really excited to be picking those because the pledge manager for that isn't open yet. So again, this is one, if you like the look of this table, by all means jump on board. I mean, there was another game table at the time I bought this, the Wormwood one, which is a modular one which changes size. And I guess a lot of people really wanted that ability to increase or decrease the size of the table. It didn't appeal to me at all. I didn't have any need for it. But I think in comparison to the Meggan board game table, the wood quality looked really cheap. It looked really fragile. Everything looked thin, as if it would. And I was just worried that, stick the Dark Tower in the middle of that and it was just going to collapse. Whereas this looks far more sturdy. And yet this one finished with £430,000, and last time I looked at the Wormwood, it was well above $8 million. So I don't know whether it's just the momentum and that people weren't aware of this one, or whether there was something there that I really was missing. But that is basically everything board game related that I have bought this year, other than retail versions of, say, Dinosaur Island and Everdale, Takenoko, etc. So yeah, the actual outlay is even more than what I've shown you here. In terms of the links, as I said earlier, I will post the details of Quackalope and Boardgameco's channels in the details. And as I said, I would highly recommend you check them out because they are my two favourite content creators in this space. There will be timestamps, but you would already have known that by now. And I just want to say a big thank you to anyone that has lasted this long in the video with me. I really appreciate you spending the time. And if there's any games there that you're interested in, please like and subscribe to the channel because they will all be getting the spotlight sooner or later. And please leave a comment telling me what you're looking forward to and what you'd like me to cover from those games. But again, I just really appreciate you spending the time with me. So thank you and see you again soon. Bye bye now.